The First Law of Magic, Chapter 1, Part 2. My apologies about the state of my workspace. I don't usually speak directly to the public. The doctor levitated in two folding chairs that he had swiped from a nearby waiting room, which was of course empty at this hour. He gently placed the now unfolded chairs on one side of the desk, while closing and locking the door with his magic. The parents seemed reluctant to part, but they ultimately took the offered chairs and sat down. Axon moved to the other side of the desk and sat on a slightly comfier wooden chair. Now, I know, you're eager to ask questions. However, I would like to ask you to not interrupt and hold on to your questions until I've told you all that I know. The neurologist pulled his chair up to the desk, making the wood squeal harshly as it was dragged along the tiled floor. Okay, firstly, it seems as though your daughter has suffered from an unknown affliction. At this time, it seems as though her nervous system has either not grown properly, or has been damaged in some way before or immediately after birth.
I know the labor was a little harder this time, so could that explain what happened?
The father interrupted, throwing a glance at his wife. I'm not too sure, though I don't believe so. The doctor stopped and steepled his hooves, recovering a pipe and tobacco from a desk drawer. Do you smoke? The father shook his head, as did the mother. Shame. Terrible habit, but it calms the nerves. As he cleaned and filled his pipe with his magic, the doctor continued. Now look, I want you to know that what I say tonight should not be repeated. Right now, I have mere guesswork and a few minutes of observation. Both parents nodded darkly, the father squeezing the mother's stuff a little tighter. A brief flame better illuminated the otherwise dreary office, and the doctor gently puffed on the lit pipe, continuing after letting out a slow exhale of smoke. Her nervous system is underdeveloped to the extreme, barely extending from the base of her neck, and hardly connected to the spinal column. Though she does have connections all over her body, they don't seem to go anywhere or connect to anything that'll probably be reabsorbed by the body within the first year or two of her life, as her body realizes that the connections are actually dead.
Are you saying that she's paralyzed?
Twilight Velvet asked, panic creeping into her voice. No, quite the opposite actually. It seems as though her lambda system has adapted and now does the central nervous system's job for it, albeit at a slightly reduced efficiency. He stopped and took another few puffs of his pipe before releasing a slow exhale of smoke. She'll likely have a reduced sense of touch, a minor resistance to pain, and maybe be a little uncoordinated, but other than that, my initial analysis suggests that she shouldn't have any developmental challenges. Both parents relaxed, and the stallion finally releasing his wife's hoof and swallowing his panic. So, that being said, how much do you two know about a pony's lambda system? Twilight Velvet spoke first, evidently more educated in this field than her husband.
I know that it's the underlying magical system that enables a pony to use their tribe's innate magical ability.
Her husband merely nodded, adding nothing. The doctor then smiled. Good, then I won't have to explain everything. Now, suffice to say that due to the loss of most of the nervous system, it seems that your daughter's lambda system has grown accordingly in order to take control over the motor control. This will dramatically increase the amount of mana that her body can create and store, and she will require proper tutelage on managing this power. The doctor grimaced and took one last puff on his pipe before extinguishing it. And that means flares. Both parents gasped. It's possible that she may suffer from flares occasionally, and if neither of you are trained in first aid and know how to respond to the threat of a flare, then I would advise at least one of you to get trained.
I can do that.
Twilight Velvet responded instantly. Nightlight turned to her with a grave expression.
Are you sure, dear?
Her courage was unwavering, and she merely nodded.
My schedule is a little more flexible than yours, and they'll need you at the observatory. Besides, my editing career never really did take off like I would have hoped.
The stallion couldn't really argue, even if he really wanted to. He remembered the many similar conversations that they had already had on the subject. Reluctantly, he settled back into his chair, determined to speak with his wife further once they were home and had some sleep. Yes, well, I know the hospital offers free training for handling flares, but you should still get in contact with a guard and notify them of this development. Though it's not illegal to have that much power if the state is not properly informed, it just may reflect poorly on the girl.
If that's what you believe is right, Doctor.
Good. Secondly, this larger lambda system also has a few side effects. Judging from the way that her lambda system has grown, it's slightly larger and more pronounced in her hooves and horn, as that is to where unicorns store her mana. This will probably guide development somewhat, meaning that she'll probably be taller and leaner with a more pronounced horn than fillies her age. This will be normal, and though she might suffer from growing pains, they won't last long, and should be dulled by her own lack of a functional nervous system. Now, lastly... well... I'm not entirely sure how to say this, but... did either of you feel anything while in her presence? The stallion gulped, earning a glare from his wife. The doctor lifted an eyebrow at that and looked at him.
Well, a little. I didn't want to admit it, but it felt a little like there was a large animal in the room with us.
The doctor nodded knowingly. I have 2 theories for that. One is that her abundance of power is obvious to anyone who are with her, and they're forced to acknowledge that power, which may come off as a sense of instinctual fear, much like those who are standing near a predator, or the princess. Both parents arched an eyebrow at that, but said nothing. My second theory is that her mana is leaking into a type of unformed spell that takes the shape of a fear aura. Either way, those who are weak-willed will be significantly more affected, and if this ability cannot be... The doctor rolled a hoof in the air, looking for the right word. Handled, then I would suggest keeping her out of public school.
Wait, so why would that be?
Put quite simply, it would cause a panic. Children that age rarely have the will to resist their instincts and have a tendency to lash out when faced with such stimulus. He coughed nervously, his lack of interpersonal skills showing quite handily. At least until she's of high school age. The parents exchanged a knowing look that said we will talk about this later, and turned back to the good doctor. Anyways, that's all I know now, but with your permission, I would like to continue to examine her thoroughly and watch her development. And hopefully, I can figure out a way to help, or at least find out why this is happening.
Of course.
The mother replied. Good, good. Now, if that's everything, I have some sleep to get back to.
Oh, wait, 2 things before you go. First, is she... all there?
Nightlight asked tentatively, earning him a sharp jab from his wife.
Dear!
Yes, she should have all of her faculties, and her brain scans came up with no complications.
That's a relief. Now, the second thing is kind of sensitive, so I must ask that you won't repeat it to any pony.
The stallion's grave tone and stern face alerted the doctor to just how important the secrecy was to the father. Of course. Patient confidentiality is secure from even Princess Celestia. The stallion wavered slightly before speaking again.
My family was cursed centuries ago, and though it hasn't come back up since my great-uncle, it might explain all of this.
Well, I doubt a curse would last that long or do what happened, but I'll keep it in mind.
You know that curse stuff is a load of nonsense, dear.
Twilight Velvet added sharply.
Well, my father believed it until his dying day.
Curses can have strange effects further on, and it's not that unheard of for a particularly powerful one to cling onto a family. The doctor added. Now, if that's all, I really must be getting back to sleep. Both parents quickly stood up.
Of course, Doctor, and thank you. Oh yes, thank you for everything that you've done. I've never really met a medical professional quite as candid as you.
The father added. I'll take that as a compliment and bid you good night. I'll speak with you two again tomorrow after I've gotten some sleep and had a little time to review a few medical documents. Both parents turned and left, leaving the doctor alone with his thoughts. Contrary to what he had just said, he had no intention of going back to sleep. Once the door was locked again, he drew a pen and paper from the desk drawer and hastily began writing the symptoms noted, physical characteristics, and anything else that he had thought prudent to put to paper. Once done, he held it aloft in his magic and eyed the document carefully. In his tight-neat script lay all the information that he had gathered about the unicorn filly named Twilight Sparkle and her unique problem. His eyes glanced over the page, eyeing it carefully for anything he may have missed. Noting a slight error, he frowned, and turned to grab his pen when he was blinded suddenly by a green light emanating from the page that he held. In his panic, he dropped the pen and inkpot that he had been holding and looked back at the page, half of which was already consumed by a green flame. Before Axon could even think of a plan to save his work, the paper was gone, burned away in green fire, leaving behind not even a trace of ash. What the... Deep within Canterlot Castle, a long-dormant machine suddenly shuddered to life, altered to the presence of something that should not be. The massive arcane contraption released a high-pitched whine for a few seconds before it seemed to right itself and stop. Once righted, the machine hummed to life, different parts spinning while others flashed a variety of lights. Spells nearly 1,000 years old suddenly sprang to life and began their pre-programmed routine. scanning spells reached their destination, while another set determined if the information gathered was in line with its programming. Once the location was secure and the information verified, these scanning spells stopped. Another set of powerful magic began to hum to life as it locked onto the position designated. Once focused, it flared briefly with a strange green fire. An odd mouth-like opening near the front ejected the green flame that morphed into a piece of familiar paper. Within seconds, the spell was complete and shut down once more. The flames then vanished, and the paper fell a few inches onto a plate that sunk down into the machine, activating yet another series of spells that found Princess Celeste's location and mentally pinged her. It then proceeded to notify its creator that his job was complete. For now. I'm wondering if the Doctor is genuinely interested and worried for Twilight and her condition, or if he has evil plans set up. That's something to think about, as well as the portion of his paper disappearing. Now let's hop on over to our arcane donators. Top donators: TacoCat598, Peter Coulthard, J Tinman, Darkside, Ponyman, and Gauntlet. Zar630, Strix, Rayden, Narwhals, Blackmoonheart, Drake Lovedragon, Dospo, Madman Stan, Delta Omega, Jack Hadge, Runescythe9852, Hunter Norman, Dash of Evergreen, Ronnie Dragonwolf, Tal Rasha, The Toilet Snake, Sword Brethren Mordred, Ron and Wandering, Random Person Man Guy, Easy, Skyocchia, Leslie Cricket, Jordan Peterson, Crimson Kitsune 9, Lightskin, Monster Kitty, Tim Bob, Starlight Glimmer, Lightning Blitz, Squiddy Boy, David E. Sanchez, Soul Dragon, Gaggy, Trey, Shadow Drake, Joe Piercy, Hunter Mara, Alex F, Rainbow Dash, Teal'c Anderson, TV Killer, John Becker, Leon Reynolds, Raven Speedster, Zach Rakau, Mystery CU, Edgar Garcia, One Kingdom 1, Nissa Rusan, Vazuri, Dyslexic Character Sheets, Just a Random Boy, Hydra Plincard, A Crazy Person, Ponyman365, Neapolitan, 6 of 9, Shyfire, Stamp, and Dion Baseri. Thank you all very much for watching this video, and live life to the fullest.